an agreed programme for government. I mean, nothing can happen unless that happens. And we've had a lot of general discussions with various parties for the last number of weeks. Then COVID-19 intervened and dominated the situation, as I've said. But I think we need a radical agenda. We need a new social contract in terms of a single-tier health system. In my view, there's an opportunity now to do that, arising out of what's happening in terms of COVID-19. I think there's an opportunity on the housing front now. We saw how Airbnbs in the city have just lots of vacancies have arisen because of what has happened in terms of tourism and so on. I think there's an opportunity for the councils and for the state to get in there and take over some of those apartments and units with a view to making them available for people who need housing. So I think there's an opportunity to transform people's experiences in terms of housing, health and climate change.
And would you be happy to be at the helm for 2 years for the start of that? Because a lot of people might say, well, can we not wait? Look, we're talking probably a period of 6 months before we start getting into recovery.
Yeah, but to be fair now, I think, as I said, I'm not going to go back over it, but everyone has worked and put their shoulder to the wheel in terms of the responses to COVID. But the problem now is, of course, that if there was a need for another legislative response, we have to pass new laws to deal with this. We can't do it because the Senate is currently being elected and we need a new government to appoint the Senate and to finish off the Senate in terms of choosing nominees and that.
I think you're getting me wrong. I don't believe you shouldn't have a shot at the title, so to speak, because I've said it all along for the last 2 years that I would like to see you be given an opportunity to prove yourself because you've been there for a long time and you've proven yourself. But all I'm saying, the time and the place, and we've talked about that, and I don't want to go over the old ground again, but maybe people are saying it's going to take us 6 months estimated before we start to get into some level of recovery. But in relation to recovery, I mean, we've talked about, and I'll come back to the pandemic in a second and the effect that's having on the general population, but in relation to the economy, I mean, the estimates at the moment are in and around the 30 billion mark. I mean, and that's a possibility with the lack of revenue coming into the state as well. Does it look like we're going to have a supplementary budget as well?
I think your estimates are correct. I think it is very, very serious. At the moment, we won't need a supplementary budget. There might be something needed. I think in the autumn, obviously, there's a normal budget. I think deficit, what you're going to go from a surplus of about 2.8 billion. The central bank are saying it could go to 22 billion, but they're only basing that on a 3-month sort of containment period with COVID. I think your figures might be more correct in terms of.
Well, we have to take into consideration the lack of money coming into the revenue. The March this year to March last year, 1 billion alone less coming into the revenue.
And that didn't capture, I think, the full impact of COVID yet on revenue. So I think I think the key to this will be. I think we need backing of the European Central Bank here and the European Union in terms of underpinning additional spend and higher deficits, both to fund workers and to fund businesses to make sure they don't go out of existence and that they can stay viable.
Well, I think there's going to have to be some sort of stimulus packages, isn't there? I mean, I know the UK are suggesting stimulus packages of €25,000 grants for businesses who want to draw down from that, and I think we're going to have to probably do something the same because a lot of businesses are going to need to recapitalise when they do reopen, hopefully in the short term rather than the long term. In relation to the extension, in relation to the extension which has been suggested by Tony Hoolan, well, he doesn't know quite yet. Do you believe that's on the cards? Do you believe that's a possibility?
I think it is a possibility. You may get a regional approach to it, and you may get an incremental approach. In other words, they may relax, they may not. They told us yesterday. We had a party leaders meeting yesterday with the officials, with the medical team, the public health team, and with the HSE. And they said that closer to the end of the week they'll be in a better position. They do think we're flattening the curve. They do believe that the social distancing that people are complying with and implementing is working. And it seems to me that the main concern is really the impact on intensive care beds and also the clusters in nursing homes themselves.
I mean, and do you think there could be more done? For example, there was a suggestion yesterday as well that there was, 15 or 16 flights yesterday morning come in at Dublin Airport. So here's the population of the country being asked to stay at home, being asked to do everything that we're doing, which in fairness I think 85%, 90% of the population are complying with, generally speaking, and yet we have people coming into the country from other nations around the world in Dublin Airport on every single morning, and although they've been asked to socially isolate for 14 days, sure, nobody's following them to check, so that kind of seems like a bit of a pointless exercise. Should we go all the way and just close the airport for the continuing 2-week period if we have to do that?
Well, first of all, I think we were told yesterday passenger numbers are down 95%. Mm-hmm. Secondly, we do need to keep airports open for services and goods. We need to export, we need to import all of the materials, to help to keep us going. I mean, you saw, I don't know, did you see the news last night in terms of the 4 million bananas came in one ship. So it just illustrates the scale and volume of goods and services that have to come into our ports and that have to come through our airports. I think we do also have to facilitate the return of Irish citizens back from abroad. But the numbers have simply crashed, though. I mean, there's no huge volumes coming through our airports at all. And 95% is a huge decline in numbers. I think my concern would be over the medium term. I'm concerned that COVID could linger on at a low level.
They do believe it could linger on for decades at a low level, I suppose. I mean,
if you get the vaccines, if we could get vaccines and antivirals, that would...
Where are we with that? I mean, I know you're not a virologist or an immunologist, but, I mean, there's a suggestion in the UK, and Boris Johnson had suggested yesterday that they should be home kits tests will be available on Amazon and Boots by next week or early next week. Are we looking at something like that as well, which is a 15-minute test, which makes it much easier to identify those who don't have it or those who already have had it and have antibodies, and maybe those people could get back to work again, and we could continue to cocoon the over 70s to protect them?
I think we are, yeah. I think we will be looking at those kind of tests. And I mean, our current testing situation is not where it should be. And these tests, I think the public health people want to be definitive about their quality and that they actually work, because you don't need a whole lot of false negatives. In other words, a person tests negative but actually turns out to have it. I mean, that would be calamitous in terms of spreading it and so on like that. So I think once they're satisfied about the quality of the new tests that are emerging, I think you can anticipate that they will be applied in time. And similarly, I think the key to this will be in research around medicines and around the vaccine. Because the point is, will people travel again in a hurry?
I think people are going to be cautious.
Have you thought about that? How's people's behaviour? To what degree will it?
I mean, if I can ask you personally, by the way, Niall, how is it affecting you personally? I mean, how do you feel about it personally? Are you concerned on a personal level?
No, on a personal level, no. Which is that's just me. But I would be concerned about passing it on to somebody else. Mm-hmm. So I'm being very strict in terms of personal hygiene. Food, I just salute the Irish food producers, and they're fantastic, and they're taking innovative ways of delivering food and preparing food in accordance with best standards. And I think they're our saviour. I think the people in the retail sector, the workers there, are our saviour in terms of shops being open and so on like that. I think we should all support our small Irish food producers around the place who are doing fantastic work in giving us our wherewithal to survive. I think the personal impact is I walk up Bagot Street, and these streets, they're empty.
Yeah, and it's quite surreal, isn't it? Yes, it is quite surreal.
I think we're getting a bit more reading in.
Yeah.
If I'm honest,
I think I think everybody agrees.
I'd recommend it. Yeah.
If the one positive thing that'll come out of this, I think we've reassessed how we live our lives, and maybe it brings families closer together and all those kind of things. So there is some small little positives there.
And then we're also developing new ways of. So I think remote working would be interesting. To what degree will that sustain after COVID-19?
Absolutely.
To what degree will teleconferencing work and so on like that into the future? It all remains to be seen in terms of the impact. But I think suffice to say that I think we have to. I think we should continue with the measures we are doing. I think, to be fair to the Irish people, the vast majority are complying with them, adhering to them, and I think that if we can suppress the virus, I think that's the safest and most effective way of getting the economy back as well.
Okay, the final question for you just before you go, because I know you're a busy man today, and I'm sure you'll be talking to me all later on. I urge you to end it. To Leopold later on today, sorry. Did I say Enda Kenny? I think my mind is wandering back 8 years there.
You're bringing back memories.
I am, yeah, maybe some bad ones as well, Michal. But in relation to forming the government, how soon do you think, for people listening today, how soon do you think that will happen? Because the only thing I am concerned about, and I'm not concerned about you being Taoiseach, but the only thing I am concerned about is that maybe Leo is a trusted face. Whether we like him, whether we loathe him, whether we trust him, whether we voted for him, whether we didn't vote for him, at the moment he's a trusted face. And maybe to change that in the next 3 weeks, which was the suggestion that Leo has made, might be too soon.
Well, first of all, I think any new government will could involve Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, which brings with it its own continuity, and another party, if another party wishes to join, and that's not clear yet. So there's some distance to go yet on that, because we would hope that we'd have a document finished next week, a joint document that would act as a catalyst then for other parties to reconsider their positions. I think it has to be a transformative agenda. Niall. I just think it has to be transformative. It has to, there's an opportunity. COVID-19 is changing the world. And I think in the aftermath of a crisis like this, a global pandemic, there is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to sort of turn around the country in terms of our health service, in terms of housing, and grasp that opportunity to make that fundamental difference, and also to meet the challenges of climate change that we still have to deal with. And I think COVID-19, with all its dangers and ills and so on, I think creates that opportunity. So whatever government is formed, the key part of that government actually is not the personalities, it's the programme for government, and does it really, if implemented, transform people's life experience for the better compared to the experiences they've had in housing and health over the last number of years.
All right, listen, thank you very much indeed for joining us today to Fianna Fáil, TD Ireland.
Thank you very much.
Niall Martin, thanks. All right, now, somebody said a Freudian slip, Niall. Yes, it was Enda Kenny. How did Enda Kenny's name even get into my head, for God's sake? I thought we forgot. Where is Enda these days, by the way? The last time he was seen was cycling a bike in Mayo. Somebody else said, I believe Enda is running for government again. I don't think that'll ever happen. Leo has showed us true leadership, and that's what we need. So give up on searching for power and deal with what we have. Well, yeah, that's my concern. Whether you like him, whether you loathe him, whether you hate him, whether you love him, whether you voted him for him, whether you didn't like. I mean, he has become the face of information for us. Tony Holohan has become the face of information for us. Simon Harris has become the face of information. Regina Doherty when it comes to social welfare. We're used to seeing these people dealing with it at the moment. But no disrespect to Mehole, he hasn't been on the news as much because obviously this is the party that's dealing with it. Fine Gael are dealing with the situation at the moment. And I suppose to form a new government is not such a bad thing. Although a lot of people would be unhappy with the fact that Sinn Féin are not involved in that in a national government. But I think to change Taoiseach at this very moment in time may not be a good idea. Now, the rotating Taoiseach would be an interesting idea, that basically Leo would have it for 2 years, he'd have it for 2 years, etc., so you rotate around. But I think it would be better to leave it with Leo just for the I suppose, the immediate future, I think is the point I'm trying to make. All right, now, loads and loads of people texting in. Somebody says, no, I'm listening to Mehole waffle again. I'm from Cork, and I can't say I'm too proud of him. And somebody else says, no, I completely agree with you. I think it's time to give Mehole a shot at the whip, as you said, because I certainly believe that he would be a good leader. I don't doubt for a minute that he would. And, he's been there a long time, and I think he deserves a chance to prove himself. And, I don't know, maybe he'll make a hames of it, maybe he won't, I don't know. We'll have to see. It's a difficult time, isn't it? It's like a poison chalice at the moment, this country. Well, every country is like a poison chalice. And please stop with this Fine Gael love-in. I'm getting sick of hearing it, says Alan. Leo and Simon are like the deers in the headlights. I don't necessarily agree with you. I'm not a fan of Leo. I'm not a fan of Simon's. But in fairness, under the circs, they are doing a reasonably good job. Look at poor Simon, for God's sake. On a personal level, look at the man on the news. He hasn't shaved in 3 days. He looks like he hasn't slept in a week. He's working hard. Might not be making the decisions you want him to make, or the right decisions all the time, but at least he's trying. I can't really say the same for Leo. Leo always looks very impressive, doesn't he? Somebody must be dressing him. All right, listen, I want to move on. Now,